Yep, so very good. So just like we went through the first left-hand column, went through the right-hand column, she is able to pull specific information from her notes, which means that there's a great deal of note-taking that the CMA had to do in making sure they were writing down exactly what the students were doing, exactly what the teacher was doing. Thank you. Sincere. What did you pull out about her being sincere? Thanks, Liz.
I felt like the most sensitive area is that last factors underlying teacher actions. And so she offered it as a suggestion. She's like, do you think that it's your ability to get them to behave as opposed to saying it's your ability to get them to behave?
Exactly. Yep, so she wants this core member to buy into whatever it is. So do you think this is right? Like, how do you know? Instead of making sure that this core member believes exactly what they're coming to. Thanks, Liz. Curious. Hey.
She was asking a lot of questions about, like, is this typical in your class, and also what are your theories? So she was seeming genuinely interested in what the CM sort of perspective on the evidence was.
Exactly. So again, she's asking questions just to kind of help to develop what her theory is, to make sure that whatever her next steps are really going to lead to academic progress. Great. And the last is logical. Thanks.
One thing we were talking about was just how she kept grounding it in notes and specific observations. I know we talked about that earlier with specific, but that also shows that this theory is not coming out of left field. This isn't something that she's just making up on the spot that isn't resonant to her.
Great. So she's like trying to ground this theory in her data, making sure that her observation notes match what the theory is, and just matching what the next steps will be. Anything else around logical? Jen, actually, can you just tell what you were talking to your group about being logical?
Oh, okay, so we were talking about two things. Like, one, it's important to, like, a core member can't read your mind and your thinking. And though, like, we're logical people, we actually have to articulate our logic to core members so that they build that skill themselves. And then the second one was a piece of being logical is, like, prioritizing. So again, they did a really good job of explaining why they're prioritizing something.
Great, thanks, Jen. So just going back to what Chrissy was saying earlier, when you're in a classroom and you're trying to analyze it, you have to go through the thought process of saying, if it's planning, then why isn't it investment, or why isn't it execution, or why isn't it anything else? And so in the same way, in this conversation, I threw out 4 different things that I thought my theory could be. I was like, it could be investment, it could be classroom management, I don't really know what my theory is. And then my CMA actually helps me go through the process of saying, okay, so let's actually talk about that, and let's figure out why we would prioritize one over the other. So being logical, and then helping me to understand the thought process so I can build my own CID skills. So now I'm going to move into step 8, which is actually generating solutions that are going to help me with my academic progress. So again, you're looking at handout number 5. You all can continue to take notes there about what the CMA is doing to help us move the conversation along.
So if we're right about what's most holding you back, then we need to design some next steps that will help you change this mindset. And I actually want to pull out our next steps flowchart and look at E4, maintaining high expectations for behavior.
You know, even if just one day I could do it, and then they did it well, then maybe, you know, I can think about my ability to do it differently. How are my collaborative members doing? I mean, would it help me to go observe my classroom? Like, are they doing better than me?
Well, well, I think it's actually a really good idea for you to go and observe, because Leah in your collaborative is actually really strong with her classroom management. Why don't you observe her tomorrow, and then we'll also set it up so that you can be videotaped.
Okay.
I think it would probably be really helpful for you to see yourself and see your students kind of in all of the different stages of the lesson. How you react to yourself presenting content, how you're setting expectations for behavior, and how you're delivering consequences. I think that would be a really strategic reflection exercise for you.
Great. I would love to go to see how other folks are doing that, because I really want to improve my practice. What about CS sessions? Are there any new ones coming up?
So that's a good question as well. So I'm not 100% sure about all the sessions we're doing. I'll know after Thursday. But we're definitely going to be offering either asserting authority to or responding to minor misbehavior. And so I'm going to let you know on Friday what I think is probably going to be the most beneficial session for you. And then definitely during advisory sessions, you can sign up for one of those sessions and schedule your time so that you can work on that. I think one of the other things, I mean, just to be honest, I think some of the mindset is we just need to build this more skill with you.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And those sessions will definitely help. I probably can also go on Talon, I think it is, to see some examples of, you know, teachers who set expectations and the way they do consequences. I mean, I really hope this all helps.
I think that sounds really smart, kind of like talent. So when you're on talent, I want you to start by looking at the BP examples in B4, and I want you to look really specifically at what the teacher is doing effectively. And so we're definitely not going to know for sure if we've selected the right next steps until we see kind of how things play out in your classroom. So, but I am feeling really confident that we came to the right decision today. So speaking of how things will play out, I'd love to hear from you. How do you think adjusting your mindset and kind of building this skill in classroom management is going to impact your students? And what kind of changes do you think you'll see from them and their learning?
Okay. Well, I think if I can start expecting them to behave well and stay focused when they're working independently, the same way that I do when they're doing the intro to the material part, and I stick through with following consequences, they'll probably spend a lot more time actually practicing the material instead of goofing off. And then, if they practice more, they'll actually start to understand more. And if they understand more, maybe they'll be doing better on their assignments.
I actually really like to go backwards through our conversation because I think it's really important for us to recognize the impact the changes that we're making is actually going to have on your students and their achievement. Can you just confirm for me really quickly what changes we'll be looking for next week in your students?
Definitely. I expect to see students much more on task during independent practice, and I actually expect a lot of them to start turning in their assignments, and that their assignments are much more complete.
Yep, sounds good. So we have just a few more minutes, and I just want to highlight some of the rubric actions for my next brief observation. So I think one should definitely be E4, communicating high expectations for behavior, so I can follow up.
Yeah, I think that's right. But can you also just look for procedures in practice? I think I've been wasting a lot of time, actually.
Absolutely. So to wrap up, how did we do with this conversation? I think I'll share quickly what I think. I've been noticing that you are really using these reflection practices carefully and you're thinking about things really logically. And I'm feeling better and better about your ability to increase your own effectiveness.
I mean, I guess so, but it's really you who's increasing my effectiveness.
I don't think that's true. I'm actually going to challenge you to stop saying, I don't know.
Okay. So you have, thank you. So you have about 5 minutes in your table group. We just finished step number 8.